Golden gives them kind of a downfield threat. They're probably not going to have Christian Watson, arguably, for maybe the whole year. I mean, his dad thinks he's going to be back in week 12. I don't know if I'm going to really stock that. Unfortunately, if you're counting on that Dontavian Wicks breakout, that's definitely a roadblock. But when you look at the way Jordan Love played last year, it was kind of like an all or nothing. It was very comparable to what we joke about with Russell Wilson. It was basically check down or throw it deep. He threw the ball at the intermediate levels only 16.9% of the time. That was 23rd in the NFL. He had the second highest deep target rate behind Anthony Richardson, and the team really reduced their passing volume, being a run-first team. Some of that had to do with, Love's injuries over the course of the season, but, also they got Josh Jacobs and they became like a running team, which is what that system inherently wants to do, the Shanahan tree. So they do get that speed threat. It is one of these things where I look at the landing spot for Golden, and I do think that he ends up in like kind of a log jam where you kind of see a lot of these, speed wide receivers, which, Ryan has talked about, all this draft process of it being kind of a trap. So I don't know if there's a huge target tree for him, but it's definitely a bump for, a guy like Jordan Love, just being able to replace that deep target threat. But I don't see a lot of targets immediately available for Matthew Golden.
And that was an issue from your write-up on him that he had in college at Texas as well, right? So we have a guy coming into this situation with a lackluster production profile in college, coming to, a situation where there's a lot of target competition, even if, Christian Watson is going to miss most of the season. He's in the final year of his contract, I believe, right,
Mm-hmm.
Watson? And so we're even with that, Golden's coming into this situation with a ton of target competition. I think the Egbuka, if we're on this subject here, the Egbuka one going to the Bucs is so interesting because of what we expect Chris Godwin to be and kind of what he was last year before the injury, what Egbuka did in college. Like, if they just signed Godwin to a long extension, perhaps they're going to lose Evans, but does this really solve that issue? It's an interesting kind of fit for me, Ryan. Do you have any thoughts on kind of how this might all work out with those three guys and maybe what the Bucs' long-term plans are here?
I love that pick. That's one of my favorite picks of the first round so far, from a few different angles. I mean, first of all, just from the Bucs' perspective, look at the construction of that team. Yeah, they needed more help on defense, but if you add like Jahad Campbell or someone like that, or Donovan Ezaraku to the pass rusher, does that really change? Like, does that suddenly become like a championship caliber defense? No, of course not. It just makes you marginally better. The strength of the team is offense, and you've got a good but not great quarterback. If you add another weapon, a guy who is the most polished wide receiver prospect in this class and is going to come in and contribute immediately, even if it's as your third weapon, now you've got three legit weapons. If everybody's healthy out there, that could take your offense from just a very good offense to one of the best in the league. And maybe you can actually compete in the NFC at the highest level with a great offense, and you can get by with just an okay defense, which was still only going to be just an okay defense if you added, just a mediocre first-round defensive prospect, because that's all that's on the board. There's no studs out there for them to pick on defense. So I love the way that they decided to address that. Like, this is what's actually going to, adding to the strength is what's going to make them a better team this year, not just adding a mediocre prospect to the defensive side of the ball. Because Egbuka he's ready to step in. Like, he does not need to develop like Goldenwood, or even McMillan needs a little bit of development too. Egbuka is so polished in all aspects of the game. I think he's going to contribute immediately.